I want you to think about the last time you gave a clear, direct instruction to your team. Maybe it was during the morning huddle. Maybe it was a one-on-one conversation with your office manager in your private office. You looked them in the eye, they looked you in the eye, they nodded, they said, "Got it, doc." You walked away feeling pretty good. You thought, finally, we're on the same page. And then 3 days later, you walked past the front desk or looked at the schedule and you realized absolutely nothing happened. Or worse, the exact opposite of what you asked for happened. It makes you want to pull your hair out. It makes you feel like you're babysitting adults instead of leading professionals. And the question that keeps you up at night, staring at the ceiling, is why don't they just listen? Do they not respect me? Are they lazy? Do I need to fire everyone and start over? Today I'm going to give you the answer, but I have to warn you, it is not what you think. The problem isn't likely their hearing. The problem isn't even their work ethic. The problem is that you often unknowingly have trained your team to filter you out. You've created an environment where listening to you is actually dangerous to their workflow. We're going to fix that today. We're going to change 3 specific mechanisms in how you lead. And if you do this, you won't just get some compliance, you'll actually get a team that hears your vision, takes ownership of it, and executes it without you having to nag them every single hour of the day. Welcome back, I'm Ryan Smith, DDS, and my goal in this channel is to help you build a dental practice that gives you freedom, not frustration. And there is nothing more frustrating than feeling like you are the only one pushing the boulder up the hill. Leadership is the most expensive skill in dentistry. You can have the best hands in the state, but if you cannot get your team to follow your lead, you will always be capped. You will always be stressed. So let's dissect why your team is tuning you out, and more importantly, how to get them tuned back in. The first reason your team isn't listening is what I call flavor of the week fatigue. Here is the scenario. As dentists, we are entrepreneurs. We're visionaries. We are constantly trying to improve something. We go to a CE course on the weekend, or maybe you listen to a podcast on the drive into work. You get fired up. You see the potential. You walk into the office on Monday morning with 10 new ideas. You're vibrating with energy. You say, guys, everything changes today. We're changing the perio protocol, and we're getting a CBCT, and we're changing the uniform policy, and we're going to start doing sleep apnea screenings on every patient. Your team looks at you, they smile, they nod, they write it down, but internally they're rolling their eyes. Why? Well, because they know something that you don't. They know your pattern. They know that by Wednesday, you'll have gotten busy with a difficult molar endo and forgotten about 8 of those ideas. They know that by Friday, the other 2 will be a distant memory. They know that if they just wait 48 hours, the storm will pass and they can go back to doing the things the old way. You have taught them that your words have a short shelf life. You have taught them that listening to every new idea is actually a waste of their limited energy because you never follow through. So their survival mechanism, and it is a survival mechanism, is to tune you out until you see, they see if you're actually serious. They filter the noise to protect their sanity. To build a team that truly listens, you have to earn back your credibility. You have to stop being the idea factory and start being the execution machine. You need to implement an implementation buffer. This means no matter how many great ideas that you have, you're only allowed to bring 1 new initiative to the team at a time, and you do not introduce a second one until the first one is fully installed, systemized, and is running without you. But here's the hard part. How do you choose which idea to focus on? How do you know what to prioritize so that you aren't just guessing? This is exactly why I created the 90-day dental practice growth plan. I realized that most dentists, they fail not just because they lack ideas, but because they lack a sequence. They try to do everything at once. This growth plan, which is totally free, you just download, I've linked it below. It solves the flavor of the week problem. It breaks down your practice into 5 specific stages: attracting patients, scheduling, case acceptance, and completion. Instead of overwhelming your team with 50 things, you look at the plan. It tells you that weeks 1 and 2, we're only focusing on X. That's it. You give your team 1 target. So guys, for the next 2 weeks, our only goal is to ask for referrals and get Google reviews. Ignore everything else. So when you stop hitting them with a fire hose of random thoughts and start giving them 1 clear strategic focus from a proven roadmap, they stop filtering you out. They realize, and Doc is serious about this. This is on the plan. I actually need to pay attention. Now let's move on to the second trap. And this is the most common mechanical failure in dental communication. And it's the silent agreement. This happens in every single practice everywhere in America. You're explaining a new way to hand off the patient to the front desk, or you're telling your assistant how you want the tray set up for a crown prep. You're talking, you're explaining the why, you're detailing the steps. Your team members looking at you, they're nodding, they're saying, they're making eye contact, and you interpret that nod as, I understand the complex concept that you're explaining. I agree with it and I'm committing to execute it perfectly next time. I am here to tell you that is not what the nod means. In 90% of cases, the nod simply means I hear your voice making a sound. That's it. I am nodding so that you will keep being nice to me. I am nodding so that you will feel heard and eventually stop talking so I can go back to the 3 phone lines that are ringing and the patient that is staring at me. The nod is a social defense mechanism. It's not a contract. It is a polite compliance, not comprehension of anything. If you want them to actually listen, you have to stop accepting the nod. You have to move to the playback method. It works like this. When you finish giving an instruction, you never just walk away. You stop, you pause, and you say, just so I know I didn't miss anything, can you walk me through how you're going to handle that next time? Notice the phrasing. I didn't say repeat back what I said. That sounds kind of condescending. It sounds like you're testing a child. I said, walk me through how you're going to handle it. This forces their brain to switch from passive listening, which is nodding, to active processing. They have to visualize the action. They have to formulate a sentence. They have to speak it into existence. If they can't explain it to you in their own words, they didn't hear you. It's that simple. Often they will say, well, I think you said, and they will get it wrong. That's a victory. You just caught a failure before it happened. You can correct it right then and there instead of being angry 3 days later. This 10-second habit closes the loop. It exposes the gap between what you said and what they heard. Stop trusting the nod. Verify the understanding. And finally, we have to address one of the deepest reasons teams don't listen. It's because we're boring them to death. We're boring them by delegating tasks instead of engaging them with outcomes. Most dentists delegate tasks. Call Mrs. Jones, stock the composite, fill the hygiene schedule, ask for a review. Tasks are low status. Tasks are just chores. When you give someone a chore, their brain engages the minimum amount of attention required to get you off their back. They aren't listening for the nuance. They're just listening for the command. They become robots waiting for a button push. If you want high-level listening, you need to assign outcomes. You need to assign missions. Don't say, call Mrs. Jones. Say, Sarah, Mrs. Jones has untreated MO decay on 30. She is nervous and I'm worried that if we don't treat it soon, it's going to turn into a root canal. We need to get her comfortable enough to book that appointment to save the tooth. Can you take ownership of getting her into the schedule? Do you feel the difference? One is a command, the other is more of a mission. One's about a phone call, the other is about saving a patient from pain. When you assign outcomes, the team member has to engage their intelligence. They have to listen to the context. They have to understand the why. They stop being a task rabbit and start being a partner in the practice. To do this well, you need to know what outcomes to assign. You can't just make them up on the fly. And this, again, brings me back to that 90-day growth plan. The reason I love this tool and why I have used it in my practices is that it gives you the specific outcomes to assign for every role in the office. For example, look at weeks 7 and 8 in the plan. The focus is case acceptance. Instead of telling your treatment coordinator, try to sell more crowns, which is a vague task, you use the plan. You say, hey, for the next 2 weeks, our outcome is to increase our case acceptance percentage. The plan says we need to track why patients are saying no. Is it money, fear, or time? I need you to take ownership of that tracking sheet and report back on a Friday. Now they have a specific mission. Or look at weeks 11 and 12, audit and optimize. You don't say work harder, you say we need to identify our weakest link in the funnel. I need you to look at the numbers and tell me where we're losing patients. When you use a structured roadmap like this, you aren't nagging, you're just leading a campaign. You're inviting your team to play a game with clear rules and clear goals. And people listen when they are playing a game. They tune out when they are doing chores. So here's your game plan. First, stop being the idea factory. Pick one thing, stick to it, and prove that your word is bond. Use that 90-day plan to keep you disciplined. Second, stop trusting the nod. Use the playback method to verify clarity every single time. And third, stop delegating tasks. Start delegating responsibility for outcomes. When you make these shifts, you stop feeling like a broken record. You stop feeling like a nagging parent who's just nagging their children. You start building a culture of accountability where people listen because they want to succeed, not just because they're afraid of getting into trouble. If you're ready to stop the chaos and start leading with a clear roadmap, go download the 90-day growth plan right now. It's linked below. It's totally free. It's the exact playbook that I used to help keep my teams listening and focused. Now, appreciate you tuning in. Let's keep working together to make dentistry fun, fulfilling, and rewarding. And subscribe so you don't miss the next strategy, and I'll see you soon.